You're in line at Starbucks and suddenly in walks a 32-pound largemouth bass. You're shocked but also curious. After exchanging some pleasantries, the bass man begins to reveal his heart to you and breaks down into tears. He tells you that he just spent the winter in Dubai, where he started dating an Instagram model, finally got that Aston Martin he always wanted, and even raised a seed round for his AI Bass to English translation app. But he reveals, despite all of that, he's completely miserable and he doesn't know why. The reason he's miserable is completely obvious to you, and you're feeling compassionate for him, so you drive him down to the nearest body of fresh water and throw him in. A single tear rolls down your cheek as you watch your bass friend swim away happily. What does this story have to do with you and me? Get cozy and open your mind, because everything will make sense soon enough. Here's a little test for you. Who are you? Are you your body, your mind, a collection of chemicals, or something different entirely? Consider this. You refer to them as your body, your mind, but whose body and mind is it? By performing this simple experiment, we can immediately come to the very first understanding in spiritual life. We are not our bodies, rather we are conscious of them. Socrates understood this and fearlessly drank poison after getting the death sentence, because he realized the soul can't die. But my friend, you and I have been operating our entire lives on the belief that we are these bodies. Just hearing that we aren't isn't going to dispel this illusion instantly. We have to be patient and make our way out of this illusion intelligently. Our lives are something like acting in a play. We've become so absorbed with our temporary roles in this play that we've completely forgotten our true offstage identities. You see, our bodies are actually nothing more than costumes, but out of illusion we identify ourselves with them and try to relate to others on the basis of these costumes. The resulting relationships, although real in a sense, are also temporary and therefore illusory. When death comes to you and me and the curtain falls on our play, all the different relationships we have cultivated during our life will be finished, and our real self and individually conscious spirit soul will be transferred to a new situation. Therefore, the goal of this human life we're both experiencing is to awaken from this illusion and become reinstated in our true identity as fully conscious, blissful, and eternal spiritual beings. Once we do that, we don't have to go through this miserable cycle of birth, old age, disease, and death anymore. You've probably heard the idea of reincarnation before, and you also probably think that it's some pseudoscience-y and unverifiable religious belief that's based on faith with no evidence to support it. Actually, reincarnation has been studied extensively in scientific circles, and there are mountains of evidence pointing to it being a fact. Here are just a few pieces of evidence to support this.
His parents say between the ages of 2 and 4, James would reveal extraordinary details about the life of a former fighter pilot, James M. Houston Jr., mostly at bedtime when he was drowsy.
Bruce said, what happened to your plane? He said, it crashed on fire. And Bruce said, why did your airplane crash? And he said, it got shot. And Bruce said, well, who shot your plane? And I'll never forget the look on his face. He went, oh, the Japanese.
So what do you believe now about your son James?
I believe that he had a past life. I believe that in his past life he was James M. Houston Jr.
Science has proven that the body you're in now is completely different in every way on a cellular level to the body that was there just 7 years ago. So if you're 21, that means you've been through 3 completely different bodies in this life already, but you have remained the same person. When someone dies, we say they passed away, they're gone. But where did they go? If we are the body, then this idea wouldn't come about. The body is still right there, but the inhabitant is gone. Otherwise, what's the difference between a living and a dead body? Scientists and philosophers are still unable to figure out why consciousness even exists at all. This is called the hard problem of consciousness. Evidence of out-of-body experiences and near-death experiences have raised further questions about the nature of consciousness and the soul. Pam Reynolds, declared clinically dead during surgery, recounted a vivid experience of leaving her body and observing the operation, providing details she could not have known otherwise. Thousands of similar cases have been documented, and such accounts, although dismissed by mainstream science, underscore the limitations of materialistic explanations and hint at the existence of a soul beyond the confines of the physical body. Apart from these, there are numerous mysteries and questions that cannot be answered by science without acknowledging the existence of the soul. Why do bad things happen to good people? Why is one person born in poverty and another is born to a billionaire? Where does consciousness come from? Universities don't teach this, scientists and philosophers don't teach this because they don't have the answers. But these are important questions to answer. If we don't know who we are, and if we go on thinking we are a temporary body that will someday get old and die, how can we ever find lasting happiness and peace? Our friend Socrates brought us to the point of understanding we're the soul, but where are we supposed to go from here? Well, we have to look for the proper source of knowledge. And since we're now dealing with the subject of spirit and not matter, we have to turn to the world's spiritual traditions to look for the answers. The Abrahamic religions reject the idea of reincarnation, and since there are thousands of cases where reincarnation has been proven, we have to look elsewhere. Buddhism believes that there ultimately is no soul, but they also believe in reincarnation. So what exactly is it that reincarnates? If you can figure it out, I would love to know. And now we come to the oldest spiritual knowledge in existence, the Vedanta. In Sanskrit, Veda means knowledge and Anta means the conclusion of. This is the culmination of all Vedic knowledge, which again is the oldest and largest body of spiritual knowledge in existence. In it, the nature of the soul and the way reincarnation operates are both explained in much more detail than anywhere else. But where are you supposed to begin with such a large body of knowledge? Luckily, there is one text that is widely accepted as the essence of all Vedic knowledge, condensed into just 700 Sanskrit verses. Over 350 million copies have been sold worldwide since 1965, and great philosophers, thinkers, and leaders have praised it since time immemorial. It's the Bhagavad Gita, which means the Song of God. So what does this book have to say about the questions we were posing before? Can it truly help us understand the nature of the soul, consciousness, and who we are? In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, text 34, Lord Krishna says, "As the sun situated in one place illuminates the entire universe, so a small particle of spirit, the soul situated within the heart, illuminates the entire body with consciousness. Just as sunshine proves the sun is present in the sky, consciousness proves the soul is present in the body. When the soul leaves the body, consciousness disappears and the body dies. Thus, consciousness is the symptom of the soul's presence in the body." Now that you know you are a soul and not a combination of matter, you should also understand the nature of that soul. Good news, the Bhagavad Gita has the answer yet again. The soul is an immeasurable particle of spiritual energy engaged with the material body, mind, and intelligence. This material body is temporary, but the soul is indestructible and permanent. Krishna further explains how the soul transmigrates from one body to another. The material body changes from childhood to adulthood and from adulthood to old age, after which the soul leaves the old unworkable body and enters another material body. So, if we reflect, we can begin to understand these important points. Matter is unconscious, lifeless, and temporary. It is known as the inferior energy. The soul is the living force, conscious, full of life, and permanent. This is the superior energy. When it is separated from the body becomes useless and dies. And this is where our old friend Bassi comes in. Even though he had achieved so much and even found love, he was miserable because he was living in an unnatural state. As soon as you threw him back in the water, he found true happiness. This is precisely the situation that we are in right now. We're living in a completely unnatural state, believing that we are a body and a mind and that our existence is temporary and full of troubles. In reality, we have nothing to do with our body or mind. They're simply illusory temporary designations. Our entire society is founded on this false belief, and because of this, everything that society tells you will make you happy actually doesn't. We see this in so many instances of famous people who seemingly have it all, being some of the most miserable people on the planet. We are fish out of water, and we have to go back to our natural state to find true happiness. Okay, now that I've plunged you into a deep depression by convincing you that your entire life is one big illusion, let's talk about what to do with this information. If all our relationships in this material world are temporary and illusory, then with whom can we establish a meaningful and lasting relationship? Krishna answers this question in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 17 and 18. "I am the father of this universe, the mother and the most dear friend. Thus, we do not have to give up personal relationships, but rather re-establish our real eternal relationship with with our most dear friend, Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord explains elsewhere in the Bhagavad Gita how this material world is actually a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. Everything in this material world is there in Lord Krishna's abode, but in its ideal, perfect form, its spiritual form. In the eternal kingdom of God, there are trees, animals, flowers, people, and so on. But unlike the material world, they all exist in intimate, loving relationships with Krishna. Each of us has a place in the spiritual world, for that is our eternal home. As spiritual beings, we are not meant for this temporary world of matter. If we persist in trying to find pleasure in this material world, only repeated frustration and suffering await us. But if we make it our only business to cultivate our eternal relationship with Krishna, we can gain re-entry into that transcendental realm of Vaikuntha, the world without anxiety, and attain a life of complete knowledge and endless bliss. This isn't something that has been recently concocted. This comes from the most ancient spiritual literature in existence, the Vedanta. This literature expounds in great detail much more about how we can find true happiness and reconnect with our eternal spiritual nature. The most important texts that we study as monks are available on our online store. The link is in the description. And if you're interested in experiencing the lifestyle of a monk, check out monkretreat.com and watch our other videos. Hare Krishna.